Hi, explorers. Welcome back to our Pearson Airport Explorers Camp. We're so excited to have you back here. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time today, you can sign up on our website to become an official Pearson Airport Explorers Club member. And as a member, we'll provide you with more fun activities and inside information each week. So be sure to visit airportexplorer.club to join. So today is the first of our fall winter camps, and we want to thank all of our explorers who joined us in August and October. We had so much fun exploring the world of aviation and learning about all the great things that happen here at Toronto Pearson. After today, we're going to be holding two more camps, one on November 26th and the second one on December 3rd before the holidays. So remember to just check our website for dates for upcoming camps and to register for future camps. So before we move along and talk about meeting the aircrew, let's say hi to a couple of my friends who will be helping me here today. So my name's Catherine. I'm the one on the top left, and I'm very lucky to be working at Toronto Pearson. What I do is I work in the community outreach program, and that means I get to go out in the community and meet with people to talk about all the great things that we do in the community. So, and then I'm going to introduce you to I'm going to let Ruba introduce herself. Hey, Ruba.
Hey, Catherine, thank you very much. Everyone, I'm Ruba. I'm the one on your top right corner of the screen. I have the best job at Toronto Pearson. I don't think any of the other three can contest that. And so as manager of community investment, I get to help the community surrounding the airport through sponsorships and investments, because we believe at Toronto Pearson by investing in the community and helping organizations that work within the community surrounding the airport, we all can prosper together. That's putting it in a nutshell. Over to you, Hayes.
Good afternoon, explorers. I'm Hayes. I work with the Noise Management Office at Toronto Pearson, and we really work together with all our brilliant colleagues at the airport to make sure that the flights that happen at the airport are as quiet as possible. Over to you, Kathy.
Hi, Airport Explorers. For those who don't know me, my name is Kathy, and I work with an amazing team that you see right here and many more people. But I get to work on fantastic projects such as this one, the Pearson Airport Explorers Club, where we get to talk to all of you and to tell you about all the great things that happen at the airport. Welcome.
Great. So thanks, friends. And yes, explorers, we do have so much fun working together at Canada's biggest airport. So I'm going to leave this slide up for a bit longer so you explorers can write down our email address and website. Don't worry, we'll put it up a little bit later. But the reason I'm asking you to write down this information is we're going to give you a special activity at the end of our camp today that we'll ask you to complete and send to us. So Kathy, can you tell our airport explorers why it's a good idea for them to send in their work and to write down this information on that page?
For sure, Catherine, by Airport Explorers, by sending us your work to trafficcontrol@airportexplorer.club. Before December 11th, your name will be put into a draw to win some cool prizes such as an Airport Explorer hat, a t-shirt, or a jigsaw puzzle. And if you've joined us each week and sent in all 3 of your activities, your name will be put into a draw for a chance to win a Chromebook. Yes, I said Chromebook. The draw for the Chromebook will be on December 18th, and we will email the lucky winner of the Chromebook draw shortly after that. We'll also be contacting all the winners of hats, t-shirts, and jigsaw puzzles, so make sure to remember to send in your work. Catherine, can you tell our Airport Explorers some of the fun activities we did over the summer and in our October camps for those who are new and are just joining us?
Oh, for sure, Kathy. That's a great idea. In our last camp in October, and it was on cargo and baggage, airport explorers were introduced to a game we called Cargo Bingo. So explorers were asked to compete with their family and friends to find objects that matched the descriptions on the Cargo Bingo card. And the first one to yell, "Cargo! Cargo!" Yeah. Thanks, Yace, wins. And in our camp on the runways and inside the towers, Airport Explorers were asked to match each airport with a 3-letter airport code. So if you travel out of Toronto Pearson, you know our airport code is YYZ, and each airport in Canada has its own distinct code. So that was a kind of a fun activity we did on that session as well. But if you weren't able to join us for any of our summer camps or our October camps, you can still play these games by watching the video on our website. And then you'll also find some cool stuff we looked at, as well as the games we played. And Kathy, I know that you have a cool activity planned for us today, don't you?
Yes, I do. And as usual, they're pretty amazing and cool activities I've planned for you. And Ace, can you tell our Airport Explorers what else they can find on our Explorer website? I know Catherine mentioned a few.
Sure can, Kathy. So there's a lot of cool things on our website, airportexplorer.club. You'll find lots of activities such as how to decode messages using the aviation phonetic alphabet. We have mazes and games that you can play, instructions to help you build your own plane or even a kite. And we have some interviews in our airtime section with a pilot, even an astronaut, and a few of the amazing people who work at Toronto Pearson. So be sure to check that out. Our previous camps were all recorded, as we're doing today, so be sure to check them out online. Also, don't forget to tell your friends and family that they can watch all of our camps as well.
Yeah, that's good. Tell your friends and family, because we don't want you just to be the only ones having fun, Airport Explorers. So thanks, Yace, for all this important information. Before I hand it over to you, Yace, I'm just going to let our explorers know how today's camp will roll out. So first, we're going to look at an Explorers Club presentation called Meet the Aircrew. So when we go through this, pay attention to some extra insider information we're going to give you, and that will provide some clues that will help you later when we play our trivia. And next, we're going to see what Captain Judy Cameron has to say. Now, Captain Cameron was the first Canadian female pilot to fly for Air Canada, as well as the first Canadian female captain of a Boeing 767 and a Boeing 777. So she's a pretty amazing woman, and I can hardly wait to hear what she has to say. And next, we're going to play a trivia game. And after trivia, we're going to answer some of the questions that were sent in by our Airport Explorers last time. So unfortunately, because we have so much so much to cover in the hour we're together, we're not going to have time to answer any of the questions you send us in the chat box. However, you can send us your questions after the camp when you submit your work. And then, of course, we'll end our time together with Kathy, who will walk you through an activity you can have fun with after this camp. So remember to do the activity and then send us your work to be eligible to win some cool prizes. So, Yace, are you wearing your pilot's hat?
Of course I am, Catherine. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay, Airport Explorers, let's go. Today's presentation is all about Meet the Aircrew. And the Aircrew is a fantastic team of people who make sure that you arrive at your destination, or the best scenario, at your vacation on time, safely and comfortably. And every time you fly, that amazing team is there. Like I said, they're called the Aircrew, and they have a super important job to do. So before we head off, let's imagine that we're all very lucky and we're walking across that boarding bridge onto the plane, and let's see who we're going to meet along our journey. And the first person that we come across when we enter that airplane is the flight attendant. And flight attendants welcome all the passengers onto the plane. They make sure that everyone is safe and comfortable. The number of flight attendants really depends on the size of the plane and the number of passengers on board. On smaller planes, there might only be one flight attendant, and on larger ones, there might be 9, 10, or even 18 flight attendants.
Wow, I'm sure you're going to tell us more about what they do, but they have some pretty important job to do, and I have a lot of respect for my flight attendant when I'm traveling.
Exactly. There's some amazing people that do a really hard job. So, of course, the other people on the aircrew are the pilots who fly the plane. And you might see the pilots as you're boarding the plane or even after you're landing. And during the flight, they're obviously pretty busy. They fly the plane using the controls in a small room at the front of the plane. That's called the cockpit. And the pilots make sure that everyone stays safe and get to their destination on time.
Yeah, I just explorers, they might want to remember the name of that small room again, right? What was it again?
Exactly, Catherine. And we handled that in one of our previous camps as well. So that's called the cockpit.
Yep.
And remember, Catherine, that's where the rudder is.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So every flight has at least two pilots, the captain, who's in charge of the plane, and the first officer. And the first officer helps the captain and can even take over flying if needed. The captain sits on the left and the first officer sits on the right. And
Kind of
really,
like, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
No, it's kind of, I was going to say, it's kind of like you and me right now. You're sitting on the left and I'm sitting on the right.
Yeah, I'm driving right now, Catherine. I'll let you know when I want you to take the wheel.
Thanks.
So a really cool piece of information there, Catherine, is that those two pilots are not allowed to eat the same meal on a flight. So, for instance, if one of the pilots, God forbid, gets food poisoning, then at least the other pilot is still capable of flying the airplane.
I've also heard that sometimes they pack their own lunches when they go on their planes.
Yeah, they could pack their own lunch, but it's very important that they don't eat the same meal. So while you're boarding, pilots are already working hard. Pilots do all of the following things to really prepare for the flight. So the first step is they review the flight plan. And the flight plan is very important. It's the route the plane will take in the sky. Weather, like we talked about in one of our previous camps, like a big thunderstorm, might change that flight plan. They note how many passengers are on the plane, and that might affect the weight of the aircraft. And sometimes they'll even ask people to move around a little bit to even out that weight. They check different parts of the plane to make sure that everything is ready for takeoff, and they make sure there's enough fuel to make that trip. Very important stuff.
Yeah, I've sometimes when I go on the plane, I see them, they have like almost like a checklist, right? And the pilots make sure that everything's safe and secure, so they can do their job effectively and we can get to our destination safely.
Yeah, they've got a lot of, I'm going to call them cheat sheets, because there's so many things they have to remember that if they go through all their checklists, they're sure that they haven't forgotten anything. So while the pilots are preparing for takeoff, the flight attendants are going to help you and all the other passengers get comfortable for that flight. And this is the time where you find your seat, make sure your luggage is in the overhead compartment or even stowed under your seat. And a flight attendant can always help you with that. If your luggage isn't put away properly, it can fall on people's heads, so it could be very dangerous. So make sure to always follow the instructions of the flight attendants.
Yeah, and remember we were talking about on our camp on cargo and baggage, stuff that you bring in on with you on the plane is called, what's it called again?
That's carry-on, Catherine.
Carry on. And the bigger stuff you check in, right?
Yeah, and the bigger stuff goes underneath in the belly of the airplane.
But somebody told me if I had a little dog and I was traveling, I could bring it with me.
Yeah, so if the dogs are small enough, they usually go in their little special carriers. And they're usually small enough so they can even fit right at your feet too.
Oh, that'd be fun to have my dog on my trip with me.
I think my big Labrador is a little bit too big to fit in that little carrier. He wouldn't be very happy. He'd
be too crowded in that spot.
So flight attendants' main responsibility is actually to make sure that all the passengers are safe. And they show you how to use your seatbelts, how to use the oxygen mask, and how to exit the airplane safely and quickly. Passengers also watch a short, important safety video before takeoff. So check out our lights, camera, and safety activity to watch some of them, and you can even make your very own safety video.
Yeah, that's on our on our website. But yeah, and explorers, I mean, I always pay extra attention as well, not just to the video, but to what the flight attendants are doing at the front. So I know just in case something goes wrong, I know what to do.
Exactly. Safety is always the most important thing. So flight attendants have a lot of training to make sure everyone stays safe when they're on the airplane. And that training includes how to fight fires and how to open an inflatable plane slide. And they know all of the different parts of the plane and all of the emergency procedures. And Catherine, did you know that some flight attendants even need to pass a swimming test as part of their training?
I didn't know that. But I think another thing that flight attendants have to, like, they can't be afraid of flying.
No, exactly, because they'll be flying a lot.
Yeah.
And it sure makes me feel a whole lot better to hear all the different kinds of training that these amazing people go through to make sure that they know exactly what to do in any situation.
Yeah, for sure.
So flight attendants, they're always checking to make sure that the passengers stay safe. They make sure people are wearing their seatbelts if the seatbelt light is on. And they're trained in first aid and can help people who have medical emergencies during a flight. Flight attendants also make sure that children who are traveling without their parents are being safe. Being a flight attendant can be a very difficult job, but it is a super important one.
Yeah, they certainly do a lot of things to keep us comfortable, right, Case?
So when we're talking about that comfortable, Catherine, so they definitely do that. They can give you snacks and drinks, even give you headphones if you've forgotten yours, and help you with anything that you might need during the flight. If you need any help at any time, there's usually a special button that you can press, and a flight attendant will come over and help you out.
Perfect.
So we're almost there. And before moving the plane away from the gate, before that pushback happens, the pilot has to get permission from the apron tower. And if you've forgotten what the apron tower is, check out the All About Airport slideshow that's on our website to learn more. And with lots of planes on the runways, pilots have to follow those instructions very carefully. They then drive the plane to the correct runway and check the wind speed and the wind direction. And that helps them choose how fast and at what angle to take off. They also check everything for safety one more time. And the pilots and the flight attendants have to be super focused to be able to do their jobs. And you can even sharpen your own focus using our concentration cards activity.
Cool. Now, yes, there's a lot of talking that goes on between the pilot and a couple of people, or lots of people, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of talking, and not just talking, but just communication going on too. You're seeing that little light there, Catherine, on the left-hand side?
Yeah.
That's the little light from the marshaller, and they don't actually talk to the pilot, but they talk to the pilot by moving those hands around with those lights in them to make sure that the pilot knows exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, they have like special kind of almost like a dance that they do so the pilots know exactly where they should be going and when to stop. And yeah, that's an important job too.
Very important job. So they talk to the air traffic control tower and the apron tower, as well as they follow the instructions, the hand instructions from the air marshalers.
Cool.
So when the plane is on the runway, the pilot will wait for permission to take off. And at this time, you'll see the flight attendants working. They're making sure that the aisles and emergency exits are clear and check that everyone is seated and wearing their seatbelts properly. Then they also sit down, put on their own seatbelts, and when they do, you'll know that it's time to go.
Great.
When the control tower gives that okay, the all clear, the pilot drives the plane down the runway at a really very high speed. And once the plane is going fast enough, it'll generate enough lift to get off the ground and off to flying. And the pilots guide the plane into the sky. So
somebody told me, or I think I remember this from my last camp, that the planes need to take off and land into the wind. Is that right, Yes?
Yeah, that's right, Catherine. It's very important because wind plays a very big factor into those 4 essential forces that we talked about with the science of aviation, because we need that wind to be in the right direction and at the right speed for that aircraft to be able to generate enough lift so they can actually fly.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for reminding me. And we also have how many runways again?
5. We've got 5 runways at Toronto Pearson Airport.
That's right. And that's because 3 of them are east-west. That's right, because most of the winds are east-west. I remembered that. Thank you.
Exactly. And then when we need them, we've got 2 north-south runways, for when those winds get too high and when they're either from the north or from the south.
Yeah, thanks.
So when a plane has taken off, the pilot lifts the landing gear, and then they take the plane higher and higher. And this is when you might fly through and even above the clouds, which is always one of my favorite things to see. And once that plane is high enough, usually around 35,000 feet in the air, the plane cruises. And cruises means that they're staying at the same height, the same altitude. And the pilots can then relax a little bit and turn off the seatbelt signs so people inside of the airplane can move around. And during the flight, you can usually get up, walk around a little bit, but it's usually a good idea to stay seated and keep your seatbelt on even when the seatbelt sign isn't turned on, because that's always the safest place to be on an airplane.
I love that part when you just get up and you can see the clouds and they look like big puffy cotton balls. It's just, I miss being
like nice gooey marshmallows.
Yeah, no, gooey marshmallows. I miss flying.
Oh, I do too. So the pilots get a little bit of help from computers. So modern airplanes have computers that help them fly, and pilots use the autopilot to keep that plane flying on course. But that doesn't mean that the pilots can just kick back, relax, and read a book. They have a job to do still. They're always keeping an eye on the amount of fuel that the plane has left. They check the flight instruments in the cockpit, that little room in the front, to make sure that everything is working properly. And they talk to air traffic controllers in case they need to change their route or their flight plan because of the bad weather or other issues. So while they're working, you can relax and, of course, look at those nice puffy white clouds.
Cool.
So very long-haul flights might include teams of up to 4 pilots. And they take turns. One pair of pilots fly the plane while the other pair rests. Flight attendants need breaks too, on longer flights for sure, to also have a quick rest. Some airplanes even have special private areas with beds where pilots and flight attendants can sleep. I know that Russ has hinted at this before, that this is one of his favorite places on the airplane. And for instance, that largest passenger airplane, the Airbus A350, that can fit up to 868 passengers on its 2 decks, that has 8 bunk beds in a really cool hidden room where the aircrew members can have a turn and they can take a rest, and even where the captains can sleep when they're not on duty.
But that's when you said that's when they're on really, really long flights. Like what? How long would that be? Like?
Yeah, when it's like flights of like 18 hours or something like that. So the really, really long ones.
I couldn't stay awake for 18 hours.
No, definitely not. If you think like you wouldn't be able to drive your car for 18 hours straight.
No way.
So when they're coming back down, it's time to land, and landing is the final part of the flight. Pilots check the wind and the weather at the airport a little bit in advance before they get there. And then with the help of the air traffic controllers, the pilots guide the plane into position to land on the correct runway. They usually turn off autopilot and then control the planes themselves. Pilots decrease the engine speed and use the landing gear and wings, flaps, to create wind resistance. And that slows the plane down so that it lands as gently and as comfortably as possible. And those pilots are really proud when they have a nice, smooth, and soft landing.
And the passengers are extra happy too.
Yeah, I'm usually very happy to give the pilot a nice applause at the end of a very smooth landing. So after that plane has landed, make sure you stay in your seat a little bit longer with your seatbelt on. The pilots and the flight attendants will tell you when it's time to get up. And when it's your turn to leave the plane, get your bags from the overhead compartment or under your seat. And as you leave, the flight attendants and maybe even the pilots may be at the door to say goodbye. And that's another piece of really good advice that I want to give you is sometimes the door to the cockpit might be open and you can even sneak a little peek inside.
And I like to say goodbye to them, the flight attendants and the pilots, and thank them for the good job they did.
Exactly, Catherine. So how do you become a flight attendant? So maybe you'd like to become one. It is a really cool job. And to become a flight attendant, you'll need to apply for a job with an airline like Air Canada or WestJet. It helps if you have a college degree or experience working with people, like in a restaurant or a hotel. And flight attendants have to be really friendly, patient, and flexible. It's also a big help if you can speak another language, because you would work with people from all over the world. So think about if this job might be something for you.
Yeah, and you'd have to be a really, really good people person, because I know sometimes people get excitable and nervous when they're flying, and they can be a little bit grouchy. And flight attendants have a lot, as you said, a lot of patience and a lot of good people skills to be able to, work with people and calm them down.
Exactly. There's some great people to make sure that everyone stays safe and comfortable.
Perfect.
So maybe you'd like to become a pilot instead. And to become a pilot, you'd have to, of course, finish high school. And many pilots also go to university or college before beginning their pilot training. And that pilot training starts with flight school, where pilots, of course, learn to fly. And if you pass, you'll get a pilot's license. Then you'll need lots of hours of flight practice to get your license. And if you want to get hired, you'll have to take a lot of flying tests. You'll have to show that you can fly in low visibility, for instance, when it's foggy or rainy or at nighttime. And lastly, you'll have to pass a medical test as well as vision and hearing tests. So that's a lot of tests.
Yeah, and explorers can also start looking at becoming pilots when they're young. I mean, we met an airport explorer this summer who is part of the Air Cadets program. That might be something interesting that our explorers might want to look into.
The Air Cadets is definitely a really cool program too. So being a pilot, it's not all glitter and glamour. It can be really tough. And you might be away from home a lot, but you'll get to fly planes and see amazing things all over the world. And when you start out as a pilot, you may not know exactly every month when and where you're going to be flying. But as you'll get more experience, you can usually choose when you work. And it can take many years to become a captain.
And I remember, I'm looking forward to hearing with what Captain Cameron says, because she tells us all about what she had to do to become a captain. That's cool.
Right.
Thank you.
So from the minute you step onto the plane until you arrive at your destination, the aircrew is there to really make sure that your flight is safe and comfortable. Maybe you'll be a member of the aircrew someday, and you can do that same thing for passengers from all over the world.
Wow. Thanks, Yace. That was super interesting and a lot of information to remember. So yeah, explorers, if you want to look at this presentation again, as Yace said, we're recording it, and we'll have it up on our website tomorrow, so you can watch again. So let's see what Captain Judy Cameron has to say about her job as Canada's first female pilot. And remember, not only weren't we giving you clues through this presentation, but pay attention to what Captain Judy has to say, because she's there's going to be some stuff from what she says that'll be in our trivia later on.
My name is Judy Cameron, and I was the first female pilot to be hired by Air Canada on April 10th, 1978. There weren't any other female pilots with the airline at that time, so it was kind of a big deal. There was a lot of media reports, a lot of stuff in the newspaper about it. And I was very used to being the only female at that time, because when I went to school to be a pilot, I was the only girl in a class with 30 guys. And when I started with Air Canada, I was the only female pilot in a room with 11 other guys. The one thing I loved the most was travel. I got to see the most amazing sights. I saw sunrise over the Atlantic Ocean. I got to fly over the glaciers in Greenland. I've seen the Rocky Mountains in winter and fall. I mean, it's just beautiful every time I go across the Rockies. And did you know that if you're flying in Ontario and Quebec in the fall, you can actually see the trees from the air? Everything is kind of a reddish tinge instead of green. So it's pretty cool. And I love the places I got to fly to. I was in Rome. I could have dinner in a little cafe. I went to Barbados in the winter when it was snowing here. I really liked traveling. It was a lot of fun. It was a challenge. I liked things that went really fast, and it was a lot of fun to fly. When I was really little, I wanted to be a cowboy when I grew up. And then when I got a little bit older, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to be. In fact, I went to university and I was still trying to decide what I wanted to be when I got interested in flying. And it was a complete fluke. I got a job interviewing pilots, and I was taken flying in a small airplane for the first time. and I absolutely loved it. And from that first flight, I knew I wanted to be a pilot. The very first time I flew, I was pretty old compared to most people. I was 13. And I remember taking a flight on a DC-9. And at the time, they were a brand new airplane for Air Canada. And in those days, they used to take children and anybody else who was interested up to the flight deck. And I remember it was night. And we went up and all the lights were turned up inside the airplane. And it was the coolest thing ever. I really enjoyed it. But I really became interested on my first flight in a small airplane. My biggest inspiration, I think, was my mother. She was a single mom. She brought me up by herself, and she taught me that I could be anything I wanted to be. She let me believe in myself. She never put any limits on me. So when I came home and said I wanted to be a pilot, she just encouraged me to go ahead. This is probably one of the weirdest experiences anyone has had. We were starting the engines on the ground in Rome, and it was a very hot day. And all of a sudden, something flew up in the cockpit between the first officer and I. And at first we thought it was a little bird. And then it perched itself right on the thrust levers. That's the things that make the airplane go faster. It was a bat. It had flown out from somewhere in one of the instrument panels, and there it was, perched right on the end of the thrust lever. So we were kind of wondering what to do, but very quickly my first officer was smart. He opened his window, and I guess the bat smelled the fresh air, and we kind of threw a couple of books in his direction, and he flew out and away to freedom. But that was really surprising. We had an unexpected passenger in the flight deck. My favorite airplane was the one I retired on. It's the Boeing 777, and it's the biggest airplane that Air Canada had. I was the first female captain on the Boeing 777 in 2010, and it's a really big airplane. It generally held about 350 people, but some of them, special ones, held up to 458 people. It's like having a little town back there. And as people were getting off the airplane, often we would stand to say goodbye, and it just felt like it kept coming and coming and coming. I was starting to think maybe they were getting on at the back of the airplane. And for any of the future pilots out there who are interested in some of the specifications on the airplane, it was 74 meters long and its wingspan was 65 meters wide. And you'll never guess how much it weighed when it had all the fuel on board and all the passengers. It's 344,730 kilograms. So it needed 6 wheels on each landing gear to hold that kind of weight. My favorite airport, that's a tough one. I kind of like San Francisco because San Francisco had a really interesting approach. It had what's called the quiet bridge approach. And so 2 airplanes would be coming in from different directions. And it was the very last minute they would turn and both face parallel runways and come in and land. Really interesting. So you had to keep a good lookout. It was all very, very safe. But the view coming in over the bay and over the Golden Gate Bridge was pretty amazing. So I kind of like that. Okay, my biggest bit of advice would be don't limit your options. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, so I didn't take math in grade 12. When I became interested in becoming a pilot, I had a year of university, but I had to go back to school. I had to take math in summer school so that I could go to my aviation college. So don't limit your options. And be open to new experiences, things like a flight in an airplane for the first time. Make sure you just look around you. There's lots of opportunities. Don't let anyone stop you. Don't accept the word no. Don't listen to people if they say you're a girl, you can't do this, there aren't any female pilots. Don't listen to them. Do what you want to do. Listen to yourself and believe in yourself.
Wow, thanks, Captain Judy. It sounds like you love your job and really enjoy flying. So, Kathy and Ruba, are we playing a little trivia today?
Yes, we are. Ruba, how about you?
I'm ready for this. I paid so much attention to that video. Ready. Let's see.
Okay, Airport Explorers. Let's see what you remembered from the slideshow Ace gave you and our visit with Captain Judy Cameron. Do you remember the clues that were given? Let's see if you can remember the answers. We're going to ask you 10 questions and we're going to ask you to answer these in your head, at home, and we want you to challenge your brothers and sisters and friends, even your parents, who are with you to see who can get the most questions right. So this trivia is just for fun, so you don't need to email us or send us your answers right now. Okay, Airport Explorers, are you ready? Ruba, are you ready for question number 1?
I think I am. I spent enough time reading it. So,
okay, great.
Right.
Yes. Okay, Airport Explorers, here's question number 1. Who's the first person you meet when you get on an airplane? Ruba, were you paying attention?
I think I was. And, I'm also paying a lot of attention to this wonderful picture with all the Star Wars people to the right. But having said all of that, looking at the 4 options, 1, flight attendant, pilot, baggage handler, or aircraft fueler, I think the first person you meet when you get on an airplane, I would say a flight attendant.
Let's see what the answer is. Airport Explorers, if you picked flight attendant like Ruba did, you are correct. Flight attendants welcome passengers on the plane, and they always make sure that the passengers are safe and comfortable before and during the flight.
Woot woot.
Yes. Okay, Airport Explorers, question number 2. What is the name of the area that pilots sit in when they fly the aircraft? Ruba, do you remember this? Okay, let me see. Is it cockpit? Is it the bathroom? Is it the lavatory, or is it the baggage hold?
Well, I certainly hope it's not the bathroom. So I'm going to go again with answer number 1, cockpit. That's a nice looking cockpit there.
It is. Wow, she looks like she's having fun.
Yeah.
And Airport Explorers, if you pick number 1, cockpit, that is correct. Every flight has at least 2 pilots. I think Hies and Catherine mentioned that in the presentation. The captain who's in charge of the plane and the first officer who can take over flying when needed. Okay, Airport Explorers, let's go to question number 3. True or false? 2 pilots are not allowed to eat the same meal. Ruba, do you think it's true or false?
From what I remember from the slideshow, Catherine also mentioned that she knows that some of the pilots actually bring their own food. So I'm thinking that is a good indication that 2 pilots are not allowed to actually eat the same meal. So I would say this sentence is actually true.
I think you're right. Airport Explorers, let's see. Yes. Oh my God, it is. You're right, Ruba. It's true.
Yep. Three right questions in a row, Kathy. I'm on a roll.
You're obviously paying attention. Yeah. You're doing great. So cabin crew and pilots do have a separate meal from passengers. And as Ruba mentioned, they often bring their own food on board. Good going. Great job, Ruba. Question number 4. What is a flight plan? Airport Explorers, what do you think a flight plan is? Is it the route that pilots plan to fly? Is it 2, the schedule for when meals are served? That would be great. 3, the design of the aircraft, or 4, the list of movies during the flight? Ruba?
Well, seeing how I, travel overseas a lot when I go to visit my family, usually my flight plan is the list of movies during a flight, but I would be hoping that a pilot's flight plan would be actually the route that they plan to fly to get us to our destination. So that would be number 1.
Okay, let's see if she's got 4 for 4. Correct. That is right.
Yay!
Airport Explorers and Ruba, if you picked the route that pilots plan to fly, you're all correct. So pilots review the flight plan. They make a note of always how many passengers are on board. They need to know all these things. And remember, Airport Explorers, weather like a big thunderstorm can change the flight path. Okay, question number 5. Ooh, okay, I have to remember. What are flight attendants responsible for? Airport Explorers, do you think they are there to keep the passengers safe and comfortable? Do you think they're responsible to help evacuation in case of emergency and to be trained in first aid? Or do you think it's all of the above? What do you think, Ruba?
I think that they are responsible for, number 1, keeping the passengers safe and comfortable.
Ooh, okay, Airport Explorers, let's see if Ruba's correct. Oh no, Ruba, it's actually all of the above. They actually have a big responsibility. They have to be well trained. They help in case of evacuation, and they do keep the passengers safe. your answer is right, but it's actually all of the above. Flight attendants is a big responsibility. They have lots of training all the time to make sure everyone is safe during the flight. Close,
Yeah.
almost.
Oh, close, but maybe I get a partial point. How's that?
Yes, you do actually. Question number 6. Why is Captain Judy Cameron so special? Let me see. I know you were paying attention to this video. It was a good one. Is she the first female pilot to fly for Air Canada? Was she the first ever female captain of a Boeing 777? Was she the first Canadian female captain of a Boeing 767, or is it all of the above? I know Catherine talked about it when in the presentation.
Right. And yeah, I would say, you know what? I really want to get this right. And I think it's number 4, all of the above. Let's see.
Airport Explorers. Yes, it is all of the above. Ruba, you're
on track.
Yes,
Back
you are.
On track.
You're doing so great. Airport Explorers, I hope you're doing just as great as Ruba is. So the Boeing 777, we went ahead a bit, but the Boeing 777 is one of the biggest aircraft and it carries many passengers. But we're going to go to question number 7. What was Judy Cameron's favorite thing about her job? Was it traveling? 2, was it ice skating? 3, was it drawing? Or was it 4, eating? What do you think it was, Airport Explorers? I know, Ruba, this is a hard one.
It is, in fact. I know it's not ice skating, but her favorite thing about her job. Okay, traveling. It's about her job. I'd say number 1, traveling. Yeah.
I think you might be correct on this one. It is traveling. Judy Cameron really enjoyed being a pilot because there's a lot of travel. Becoming a pilot is a fantastic job, Airport Explorers, if you're interested in doing something like that. Pilots get to travel and see things around the world, and they become great meteorologists because they always have to know the weather and what's happening. And here are some steps to become a pilot if you're interested, Ruba or Airport Explorers. Totally. You can do some research pilot schools. You can possibly join the Air Cadets. That's a great way to start off. You can take an introductory training flight. There's a few flight training courses and apply for a student pilot certificate. And of course, final is start flight training lessons. Those are all things you should think about. So question number 8. What was Judy Cameron's favorite airport? Hint, hint, if you recognize the airport in this photo, you might know the answer. So 1, is it San Francisco International Airport, Toronto Pearson International Airport, Vancouver International Airport, or is it Los Angeles International Airport? Do you think this is Toronto Pearson International Airport, Ruba?
You know what? I've been to Toronto Pearson, and I don't think we're that close to the water. I would say this is the San Francisco International Airport.
Airport Explorers. Yep. You are right, Ruba. It is San Francisco International Airport, and San Francisco is almost among the 10 largest airports in the United States. And it's one of the world's 25th busiest airport. And obviously, This is not Toronto Pearson, Ruba. You are right. We are nowhere near water. We're actually surrounded by 4 different municipalities. Pearson is surrounded by Brampton. It's surrounded by Mississauga and Toronto.
Yep.
Great communities around Toronto Pearson Airport. Question number 9. What did Judy Cameron want to be before she became a pilot? We all have dreams. Did she want to be a flight attendant? 2, did she want to be a cowboy? 3, did she want to be a comedian? Or 4, did she want to become an air traffic controller? What do you think it is, Ruba?
I think, you know what, I paid attention to the video, and when she said what she wanted to be before she became a pilot, I was actually very surprised. And this is why I'm never going to forget this. Judy Cameron wanted to be a cowboy, Kathy.
Oh my goodness. I remember that one too. That is a good one. That was interesting to hear, but that's what she wanted to be. Airport Explorers, if you picked cowboy like Ruben I did, you are correct. So many women have followed in Judy Cameron's footsteps since her first flight in 1978, but women still only account for less than 5% of commercial airline pilots worldwide. So if you're a female out there, Airport Explorers, and you want to be a pilot, I encourage you to become one. This is a great, fantastic job. Last and final question, question number 10. How do pilots earn their wings?
Wait, so they have wings?
They have special wings. See this photo? It's
Oh,
if you look at a
like
pilot,
not
they all have
real
these wings. But when not real wings like angels, but
Okay.
like wings for flying.
Mm-hmm.
So do they have to finish high school? 2, do they train for many years at flight school?
I hope
3, yeah, I hope so too. Do they get hundreds of hours of flying experience? Or 4, they must pass regular medical test? Or is it 5, all of the above?
Well, you know what? Seeing how a pilot's job is very important and requires a lot of training and studying, I would say this is a 5 for sure. It's all of it.
I think I agree with you. I think pilots have a very big responsibility. So I'm going to pick number 5. Airport Explorers, let's see what the answer is. If you pick number 5, ding, 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 you are correct. It's all of the above. Pilots do have a lot of responsibility, and it takes many years to be a captain on an airplane.
Wow, guys. Ruba, you were really paying attention today.
Yeah, it's
great.
9.5,
Yeah.
I think.
Right, thanks. And yeah, those were very great questions. Thanks so much. So I guess we're going to move on to our Pearson Explorers Ask.
So we have received some questions from all the Pearson Airport Explorers, and we're going to ask Hayes to actually answer them for us. And this is great questions. So, Hayes, are you ready?
Yeah, thanks, Kathy, and thanks, Catherine. So we're going to spend some time better understanding what goes on behind the scenes at Pearson, and we'll answer, of course, some of the questions that were submitted to us by our wonderful Airport Explorers. So let's have a look at what you guys asked.
Sure. So I do have a list of some of the questions that the Airport Explorers have been sending us, and they're wonderful, great questions. I'll start with question number 1. The question says, I want to be a flight attendant. What do I need to do?
So if you want to be a flight attendant, you definitely have to finish high school. And you can even go to a college course or another university course. But it's really important to get some hospitality experience, so some experience dealing with people. And that's really good if you have some experience at hotels or even at restaurants.
Okay. It's a lot of work, right? To become
it is definitely a lot of work.
And a very important job. We thank all the flight attendants that are there. So the second question would be, what yeah.
Can I ask one, Ruba? I got one here that just came in here. Is it true, Hayes, is it true that robots work at Toronto Pearson Airport?
Oh, that's a cool question, Catherine. So it's definitely true that robots work at Pearson Airport. For example, we have robots that help clean our floors. They actually spray environmentally friendly cleaning solution and are extra busy nowadays to make sure that the airport is safe for all of our passengers and our employees. Toronto Pearson actually launched a new safe cleaning program that's called Healthy Airport, and it involves extra cleaning, physical distancing. That means that the lineups will have more space, and passengers and employees must wear masks, and only people who work or passengers that are flying can enter our terminal building. So we definitely have robots working at Toronto Pearson.
Cool.
Can I ask a question, Hayes?
Sure, Kathy.
I'm just looking at the list of questions here. Okay, second question. Do some planes have cameras on the tail of the airplane? And Airport Explorer sent that in.
Ooh. So Kathy, if you look at the bottom left of your screen, you'll see that cool Airbus A350. And that's actually one of those really futuristic new planes. And what's cool about that plane is it's got really roomy seats, soft lighting, Wi-Fi, and yes, even a camera on the tail so that passengers can actually see what's happening outside right on their entertainment system. So that's really cool and some really cool futuristic stuff.
Cool.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, now I have a question, you guys. So
Go ahead, Rupa.
what new technology is being used to make airplanes better for the environment?
Ooh, that's a good one too. So most planes, like cars, use fuel to go forward. And we all know that that's not really great for the environment, but scientists are looking at different types of fuel and other ways that planes can be powered, really to help save the environment and of course save the bees, right? We all love those bees. For example, in our previous camp that was called The Future of Aviation, we actually talked about biofuels and even electric and solar airplanes. But one of my favorites you'll see on the top left of the screen there, it's called the Flying V, and that's really a new design of an airplane. And the really cool thing there is that passengers are actually seating in the wing and not really the body of the airplane. So that's a really cool one to me.
Right. So, are you ready for the next one?
Of course.
Yes, of course you are. Is it true that I can't fly my drone near an airport?
Ooh, that's a good and really important question, Airport Explorers.
Especially for pizza delivery.
Ooh, like is that you delivering pizza to me right there, Rupa?
Of course.
So even though flying a drone can be really fun and super exciting, you have to be very careful where you fly your drone. Even if you're delivering pizza to me, there's no exceptions there. There's very strict rules in place around the airport and really around any airport to make sure that planes are safe when they're taking off or landing. So in short, you're not allowed to fly a drone near any airport. It is a lot of fun to fly a drone, but make sure you're allowed to fly wherever you are.
Ooh. All right. Okay. I'll live with that. Sure. So if I want to watch planes land and take off at Toronto Pearson Airport, where do I go?
Ooh, I love that question, Airport Explorers. So one of my favorite spots to watch airplanes is Danville Park in Mississauga. And that park was built with the support of Toronto Pearson and the city of Mississauga. You really can't miss it because it's on a really big hill and it has a really cool structure of a model plane and runway markings painted to replicate the runway. You'll see a picture of that on the bottom right of your screen. Watching planes, of course, isn't the only cool thing you can do at Danville Park. There's a lot of sports fields, so you can play a good game of cricket. And if you love to be outdoors in the winter or in the snow, it has one of the coolest tobogganing hills in all of Mississauga. So definitely a really cool place to go and check out.
Cool. I'll make sure when the weather gets a little better to go there, actually, to Danville Park. So who does the pilot speak to when arriving at Toronto Pearson Airport?
That's another great question. So we did talk a little bit about who a pilot needs to speak to before they land at Pearson in our Under Runways and Inside the Towers presentation. And there are two very important towers at the airport. The first one can be found in the middle of the airfield and is called the Air Traffic Control Tower. This is who the pilot speaks to first when they're landing their airplane. Air traffic controllers help the pilots safely land their aircraft on any of our 5 runways at Pearson Airport. And after the pilot and the aircraft exit the runways and the taxiways, they communicate with the second tower that's called the Apron Tower. And that's the one you see on the picture on the top right. And it's attached to Terminal 1 at Toronto Pearson. And the apron controllers in that tower will then help direct and park the airplane so that the passengers and the baggage and all the cargo can be unloaded.
Awesome. The towers are very, very cool, actually, to see up close. So, yes, I have one final question, if you're ready for it. And
Sure.
You're new. You're not new. You usually aren't the person answering the questions. Usually it is Russ, the roving reporter. So where is Russ, our roving reporter?
Well, Ruba and Airport Explorers, after more than 25 years of working at Toronto Pearson Airport in a lot of different roles, our loving Russ has decided to retire and take a very long and well-deserved coffee break. So congratulations to Russ, and we wish him all the best on all of his next adventures and all of his traveling adventures.
Great. I'm pretty sure Russ is having a great time, and we're going to miss Russ, our roving reporter, very, very, very much. But don't worry, Airport Explorers will be bringing you other special guests to talk about all the great things that happen at Toronto Pearson. I'd like to thank you all. I think some of you had no idea what new technologies we are always working on, why we have to be careful not to fly any drones around the airport for pizza delivery or not, and who the pilot communicates with when landing at Toronto Pearson. Airport Explorers, thank you for sharing and sending in your great questions. We look forward to more great questions and answers to share with you next week. Now, let's see, Catherine, what do you have to tell us?
Now you got me thinking about pizza. I want some pizza. Ruba, can you send your drone over with some pizza?
Sure. I'm getting one for Christmas. I'll send it over.
Perfect. I'll text you my order. So yeah, thanks, Pearson Explorers, and thanks for those great questions. So keep sending them in to us to our email address, and we'll make sure that we answer them next week. So now we're going to move on to my favorite part of the camp. It's the activity time with Kathy. Now, Kath, what are we doing today?
Thanks, Catherine. Airport Explorers. Today's activity is called Flight Attendant Relay. So let's get our imaginations moving. Let's discover and have fun and learn.
Do I need to wear running shoes for this activity?
You might if it's outdoors. So let me just explain to the Airport Explorers that they won't have time to do this activity now. So this is just a little explanation on what the activity is all about, what materials they'll need, and the rules of the relay race. We'll be leaving the Airport Explorers with an opportunity to better understand the activity. So I don't think you need your running shoes right now, but later on, if you choose to play this activity outdoors, you might need them then. And as Catherine mentioned, don't forget, Airport Explorers, you can watch this again tomorrow to go over all the steps. And you can download this activity on the Discover Learn section of our website. So Airport Explorers, are you ready to go? Catherine, are you ready?
I was born ready.
Okay, let's see. Next slide. What's our activity? Oh, but before we begin, let's go over just to better understand the roles and responsibilities of flight attendants, because in the activity game, we want to be a flight attendant. So flight attendants are trained to keep passengers safe and secure. They also make sure that passengers are comfortable and have everything they need for a pleasant flight. Sometimes they have to move fast, but they always stay calm. So Airport Explorers, see if you have some of the skills to become a flight attendant with this relay race activity.
Look how happy this team is. What a great looking team.
They are.
They love their jobs.
It's like us. We're a great team as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So flight attendant relay race, this is what you'll need. So again, Catherine, if you're choosing to play this activity indoor, you'll need a pillow, earphones, 3 pieces of round fruit, a pyramid of 6 rolls of toilet paper, a cookie sheet. However, if you choose to play this outdoors, a plastic glass completely full of water, an egg, a cookie sheet, and as Catherine mentioned, running shoes. I forgot to add that, a pair of shoes for sure.
I'm glad we did that. I can see why you would want to do that with the egg in the water outside, because if I'm playing this game, it could be messy.
It could be, but if you're calm, it shouldn't be an issue, but let's see. So this is what you'll need to do, Airport Explorers. In this activity, you'll practice bringing things from one end of the room to another or across your backyard on a cookie sheet. You can compete with a friend or sibling or your brother or sister, or time yourself. So you'll be carrying your items in a specific order, and once you've tried the game, you can always add more items to your list from around the house and race again to make it more challenging. Practice bringing items to passengers quickly and calmly like flight attendants do. So with any activity or game, there are always rules. You need to carry each item on the list one at a time on your tray. And if you don't have a cookie sheet, you can use a plastic unbreakable plate or another flat surface. You can carry the tray with 2 hands, but you could also carry the tray with 1 hand to make it harder and more challenging. I think I would love to try the 1 hand. Catherine, how about you?
Maybe not with the eggs in the water.
Maybe outdoors.
Outdoors, yes, for sure.
You need to put the items down carefully so that it doesn't get damaged, and you aren't rude to passengers. So remember, you're polite, you're calm, just like flight attendants are. They have a very important job. And the first person to carry all their items safely across the room or the backyard wins.
Cool, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. So ready, Airport Explorers, we want you to discover, like I said, learn and use your imagination, but most important, we want you to always have lots of fun with these activities.
Yeah, thanks, Kat. That was super fun, and I love a good challenge. And I'm going to time myself and see if I can carry all that stuff around the room and not damage anything. And better go up and buy some toilet paper too for this game, because yeah, we might need extra toilet paper just for this game. So for explorers to send in your work. Now this is something that you can't write down. So send us a picture of the of your tray or your are you doing this activity, and send it to our Explorers Club website so you can win for a chance to win a hat, a T-shirt, or a jigsaw puzzle. And can we have that? Let's look at our email address again. Right there we have it. So yeah, send a picture of your tray and your setup for the relay race to traffic control at airportexplorer.club, and remember to send us some questions for next week that we can answer. And then for more activities, you can go to the airportexplorer.club, and yeah, please look at the recording again because of this camp today, because then you can see Captain Judy's interview. We'll try and get it up next week as well. But we got a lot of fun stuff next week too. We're going to look at 10 cool things that you might not know happen at Toronto Pearson. So I want to thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next week on November 22nd or 26th. Jeepers creepers, next Thursday. November 26th at 3:30. And remember to tell your friends to join us. And don't forget to sign up to become an official Airport Explorer Club on our website, so you can participate in more fun as we move along. So in the meantime, explorers, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you next week. So this is Catherine signing off. Over and out.
This is Kathy. Over and out, Airport Explorers.
Roger that, Kathy. Hope to see everyone next week when we discover 10 cool things about Pearson Airport. This is Case. Over and out.
I had so much fun and learned so much as always, guys. This is Ruba. Thank you all. Over and out.